You know, have you ever really stopped to think about what makes French food so, well, so magical? It's so much more than just what's on the plate. It's actually a playbook for success that's been perfected over centuries. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain and decode that playbook. We're going to find the secret ingredients that you can use for pretty much anything. Ready? Okay, just for a second, really picture it. Imagine sitting at that table. You can smell the sauces that have been simmering for hours. You can hear the gentle clink of wine glasses. And then you take that first bite, and wow, it's that moment of pure bliss. See, this isn't just about eating, it's a whole experience. And that exact magic is what we're about to break down. So, we've structured this whole thing as la recette du succès, the recipe for success. First, we're going to look at history, l'histoire. That's our foundational ingredient. Then we'll sprinkle in the culture, la culture, which gives it that unique taste. After that, we'll get into the people, les personnes. That's the chef's secret. And then finally, we'll put it all together into the method, la méthode, which becomes your recipe. All right, let's start with the absolute base of our recipe, history, l'histoire. The rich, deep traditions of French cooking didn't just pop up out of nowhere. Oh no, they were simmered and reduced and perfected over centuries, creating the foundation for literally everything that came next. You can really trace its modern form back to three huge moments. It all kind of started with King Louis XIV, who basically turned royal dinners at Versailles into these huge theatrical performances. Then, bam, 1789, the French Revolution hits. And here's a wild side effect. All the royal chefs were suddenly out of work. So what did they do? They opened the very first public restaurants. Suddenly, anyone could eat like a king. And finally, in 1889, the World's Fair in Paris basically put French food on the world map, cementing an influence we still feel today. And speaking of Louis XIV, get this. The guy could supposedly eat 4 different plates of soup before moving on to pheasant, partridge, and salads, all in one meal. It's kind of a funny detail, right? But it perfectly captures the incredible spectacle and sheer opulence that was the starting point for what we now call haute cuisine. Okay, let's move on to our next ingredient, la culture, the culture. This is what gives French gastronomy its one-of-a-kind flavor. It's all about the mindset, the rituals, and these shared beliefs that turn a simple meal into something, well, something almost sacred. And check this out. This difference is pretty staggering. The French spend, on average, 2 hours and 15 minutes at the table, every single day. That's nearly an hour longer than in the US. And this isn't about eating more food. It's about valuing the experience more. For them, a meal isn't just fuel to get you through the day. It's a specific time set aside for connection, for conversation, and just for pleasure. And right at the very heart of this whole culture is this one magical word, terroir. There's no perfect translation in English, but it basically describes this sacred connection between a product and the specific place it came from. The soil, the weather, the people, the traditions. So, a Camembert cheese from Normandy isn't just cheese. It's the taste of that region's grass, its cows, its air. It's a concept that fuels an obsession with quality and authenticity. I mean, this is so important, so deeply ingrained, that in 2010, UNESCO actually declared the gastronomic meal of the French an intangible cultural heritage of humanity. But here's the really important part. UNESCO didn't just recognize the food itself. They celebrated the entire ritual. The way products are chosen, the art of pairing food and wine, the beautiful table settings, and, most importantly, the social connection that happens around the table. Okay, time for our third ingredient, les personnes, the people. In France, the top chefs are basically rock stars, and the powerful critics, they're the kingmakers. These are the people who drive innovation, who protect tradition, and who ultimately define the entire culinary world. Just think about a guy like Pierre Hermé. They call him the Picasso of pastry, and for good reason. He didn't invent the macaron, but he totally reinvented it with these wild flavor combinations, like his famous Ispahan, rose, lychee, and raspberry. It was just a game changer. And his story teaches us a huge lesson. Real innovation isn't always about inventing something from scratch. Sometimes it's about taking what's already there and seeing it in a brilliant, surprising new way. And then you've got the critics, whose power is just legendary. Take the Michelin Guide. Getting just one of those little stars can boost a restaurant's reservations by up to 80%. It's a system that can make you a legend, and it pushes chefs to unbelievable levels of perfection. But man, it also creates this insane pressure to be perfect night after night.
And of course, you can't talk about influential people without talking about the godfather himself, Paul Bocuse. Back in the 70s, he led this movement called Nouvelle Cuisine. He basically took all the heavy, super complex dishes of classic French cooking and just modernized them. Lighter sauces, fresher ingredients, and beautiful artistic plating. He proved you could be a total revolutionary while still having deep respect for your roots.
So, we've got our historical foundation, we've got the unique flavor of the culture, and we have the game-changing people. So what does this all mean for us? Well, that brings us to our final section. La méthode, the method. This is where we write your recipe.
So here it is. Here's how this all translates into a recipe for your success. Number 1, embrace authenticity. What's your terroir? Find that true story and tell it. Number 2, create an experience. It's never just about the product. It's about the whole world you build around it, just like that UNESCO-recognized meal. 3, innovate with respect. Be like Paul Bocuse. Push the boundaries, but don't lose your soul. And finally, number 4, build community. Remember, a great meal is all about connection, and a great brand should be too.
You know, when you really boil it all down, maybe the single biggest lesson from French gastronomy is this. It doesn't matter if you're building a business or just making a perfect sauce. The most important ingredients are always the same. A deep passion for what you do, a real desire to share it with people, and a whole lot of love. So as we wrap this up, I'm going to leave you with a question. We've just deconstructed the French recipe for success, one that's built on centuries of history, culture, and brilliant people. So now, it's your turn. What's your recipe going to be?